Did right there. We head to the Traeger Grills hotline and welcome first timer to the show, Josh Reznick. Josh, how are you, buddy?
Great, Greg. Thanks for having me on.
That was the worst pun ever, right?
Yeah, I'd be lying if I said that we haven't heard that before.
Of course. I always try and point out the obvious. Josh, before we get into the duck talk, maybe a little background about you personally, professionally, and then we'll get into the meat.
Yeah, sure. So my brother and I, we started Duckchar. My background is I'm an attorney from St. Louis, Missouri. And my brother, he did a lot of, he was in television production out in LA, but he spent a lot of time in France. And that is sort of his time in France kind of is where the idea for our company came from, because that is where our product is from.
What kind of attorneying were you doing?
Litigation, general litigation, that type of thing.
So are you like the company lawyer too for Duckchar?
Yeah, I think at this point I am the company lawyer. Yeah. No, the attorney background was certainly helpful. Not that I knew anything about running a duck company before, but I think I at least knew which questions to ask. And then my brother's background in television production, he certainly had a good idea of, just branding and content and sorting all that type of stuff out.
All right, so you had mentioned that your brother spent some time in France. I had Stephen Reichlin on in the first hour, was asking him about duck, and he immediately went to how much of a common thing eating duck is over there, and I guess not so much here. So where does Duckchar kind of become born out of? Was it your brother's time in France eating duck and then coming back and going, where the hell is the good duck?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. So he was there for about 2 years, and he was eating duck, and the first time he came across Moulard duck, which is what we provide, he was just shocked at like how good the taste was and how different it was than the Pekin duck, what he had previously had in the U.S. So when he came back, and let me just jump back a second. When he's in France, he was eating Moulard duck all the time, just like we eat like steak, chicken, fish, that type of thing, those type of proteins. So when he came back, when he was in France, he wanted to share this product with everyone. So when I visited him, he's like, you got to try this stuff. It's so good. And then when he came back, he couldn't find it anywhere. And he kind of realized he couldn't find it anywhere. And then he had the other realization that this is just something that's like objectively delicious. And then he's like, well, I'm going to start a duck company.
This is going to sound like a really weird question, but was he going around and saying, hey, Timmy and Bob, I've had this great duck in another country and now I'm back, and where's the great duck? And was it on anybody else's radar? Or I guess maybe the better question is, and you can kind of delineate what we're talking about here. When I hear people are eating duck, they have, previous to eating it, sniped it out of the sky with a gun of some sort. This isn't the same thing. We're not talking about shooting birds out of the sky, or ducks out of the sky and then ripping out their feathers and then eating them a little later that night, right?
No, we're not talking about that at all. And it's funny that you mentioned that, because the ducks that you're talking about sniping out of the sky, those are mallard ducks, and we sell Moulard. And the way it's pronounced and the way it sounds is very similar, I guess, to the untrained ear and to someone who doesn't really know anything about ducks. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times, we're doing demonstrations, we're attending barbecue events. We've been accused of mispronouncing the name of our very own product, which is kind of funny.
You're mispronouncing your product.
Yeah, we certainly are.
Great.
But no, yeah. So there's a huge difference between the mallards and the Moulards. The mallards are, they're a wild duck. They have a gamey flavor, versus the Moulards. That's not the case. And then to jump back to, my brother was asking for the product, and it does have some presence in the U.S., but it really only has a presence, for someone who, went to, a European city and they're like, oh, I really like that cheese, or I really like that protein. And they, there's places here that source kind of like fine gourmet things. But our idea and what we're doing is, presenting it like a premium protein, like a premium ribeye, something comparable to that. So
when did you decide that this was going to be a business, and how do you go about starting it?
Yeah, that's a good question. We kind of we're kicking around this idea, and we'd have our friends over and we had them try the duck, and of course your friends and your family, if you've got good friends and family on your side, they're super supportive. But we needed to find a way to test out the product before we went all in on it. So we sold Duckchar, Moulard duck, at a farmer's market in St. Louis, Missouri 2 years ago for a month. And every week we sold out. We collected all the contact info for all the different people who had purchased our product. And the farmers market community is great because people come there, they're looking for new things to try. And it was nice to get some feedback about our idea, other than just having our mom tell us that we're just geniuses.
Right.
Yeah. So just word to the wise and the entrepreneurs out there, I would get some feedback outside of your family before you do something. But once the feedback was so strong, we decided, hey, this is a good thing. We've kind of like the public's kind of affirmed that we're on the right track, and that's when we started the company, and that was about August 2016.
So when you start in August 2016, do you also know that this Moulard duck is what you're looking to source, or is that also a hurdle that you have to get over?
We kind of figured out the sourcing thing leading up to the farmer's market because we were sourcing it, but we hadn't really branded it yet. So we're dealing with things like getting our label approved by the USDA, and even just really finding the right people to talk to figure out, how that process goes, what you need, what grocers want. And it's kind of funny, like you always have an idea of where your product's gonna be like really successful. Like we thought, avenues A and B would be really great. And then randomly, we had an Instagram account, and a lot of the folks in the barbecue community started reaching out to us and purchasing our product and coming up with ideas and sharing recipes for us. So then we started smoking our duck all the time and started attending barbecue fest and stuff. And that led us down this road that, probably before we attended that farmer's market, something that we didn't think was going to be as popular as it is. So that's been really fun.
When you go into the marketing side, or you've secured the sourcing, now you actually got to go about selling it. Was it all thought to be an online drive, or was it going to be something that you were going to need to pull through, let's say, a Whole Foods or whatever the soup du jour grocery store in your area is going to be a success?
We thought originally that we were going to have the most success selling it, at like smaller independent grocers that have high-end products that are looking to try new things. And then we also just kind of had the online direct-to-consumer thing set up because fortunately it was pretty easy to set up for us. But once the barbecue community kind of latched onto it, and then we found this like huge social media presence of all these people doing all these different things that took us in a whole different direction. So that's primarily where our focus has been. It's been working with, we attend a lot of Big Green Egg Fest, do a lot of demos at barbecue events in St. Louis, Missouri, things of that nature.
Just to clear up again, these aren't birds that are being hunted. These are, I guess, for lack of a better term, are farm-raised ducks?
Yeah, correct. So this is Moulard. In the U.S., you're really going to encounter two types of ducks. Mainly, you're gonna have the hunters who are shooting the mallard ducks, the wild ducks, and then in restaurants you're going to be eating Pekin duck. Pekin. And lastly, we're selling Moulard. So Pekin, the taste profile, everything about it, it's more akin to chicken. It's got a light of color, it's smaller, and the Moulard is more like steak in terms of size, texture, and appearance. And the Moulard duck is actually a hybrid, so it's a Pekin and a Muscovy duck bred together, and that is what we sell and distribute.
All right, so let's go high level duck taste profile, or whatever hot buzzword you want. I've never had it in my life, so what would it be akin to, and what flavors would I expect jumping on my palate?
Well, so if we take a picture of it and we put it up in front of one of our demo tents or something, a lot of people think when it's sliced that it's beef tenderloin. So we say that it's like steak but with a rich duck twist, because you really do have that sense that you're eating like a really nice red meat, but there is this richness about it that beef doesn't deliver, but that the duck does. And with that, you're avoiding the gamey flavor, which I think a lot of folks just normally associate with duck, mainly because I think there's so many duck hunters. Yeah, and it's best. The other thing about it, which a lot of stuff times just like educating people about the difference between mallard and Moulard, is that you can actually cook, and you should cook our duck medium rare for the best flavor, best taste.
from the species, you said it's a combination of, is it Pekin and Muscovy?
Yes, correct.
Okay. I mean, are there, I don't know, limitless amounts of farm species ducks that you could have tried to get together in hybrid? Or, I mean, is there a limited selection that you can really mess around with?
Well, the Moulard duck is like proven. So, like what Stephen was saying before in France, how duck is on, it's, you go to a restaurant, they have chicken, steak, duck, fish. The duck that is on every menu there is Moulard. So that is like the staple of their diet. There's no Pekin duck or anything like that. So the French are surprised that we even have like these different varieties because they're only eating Moulard. So for us, it was really easy because we had this high quality product. We could figure out where to source it from. There's really no question about it. And what really drove it all was just that the Moulard is so good and so much better than Pekin.
So let's ask that question. As far as sourcing it, was that difficult, or do you just do a quick Google search and you have some things come up, or how does that go?
No, it's actually pretty challenging. Fortunately, my brother speaks French, so most of the farmers are French, and a lot of those farmers don't speak English. So he was able to communicate with them. He actually went to France. He went to a farm, and he was, got to see how they're raised and learn a lot about the process. Because at first we didn't really know what shape the company was going to take, but we were trying to figure it out from all the different aspects from start to finish. And then we now source our Moulard duck from a farm in French Canada. And my brother, through his French contacts and his language skills, he was able to figure that out because even with Google Translate, it's kind of hard to understand those pages.
From a purchasing experience, what's it like for an online person to go to your website and give us an idea of what the purchase experience is like from start to finish?
Yeah, so we try to make it as easy as possible. We have flat rate shipping all throughout the lower 48. You can buy duck on our website. We sell an individual, we sell 3 breasts as the minimum, up to 9, and they're individually vacuum sealed. They're shipped on dry ice. They arrive frozen. They're good for 2 years. It's super easy to just like throw one in the fridge, let it thaw out, and throw it on the grill or pan sear. But we try to make it as easy as possible. And we also have another thing like we really pride ourselves on is because so many people are unfamiliar with it, and a lot of times we have folks, getting it as a gift for someone else. Our customer team and recipe folks are like really available to walk people through the process because it is. So when you cook our duck, there's a layer of fat on the Moulard duck, so you don't need to add any oil to the pan or anything like that. And it's really easy to do, but if you don't follow the basic instructions, you can kind of make it harder on yourself if you add like olive oil or something like that, because then you have oil everywhere. So we're always there to keep people on the right track. And once you do it once and you do it right, I mean, it's just like anything else. It's very simple.
Is there a favorite way to prepare it?
So the traditional way, which is like a really nice way just to get a sense of what the meat tastes like, is just to cook it, pan sear it with salt and pepper in the pan. You cook it in its own fat. And another thing is you're going to want to save the duck fat just so you can use it later to roast potatoes or do anything else. And then probably my favorite way now is to smoke it on the grill, which is also, it's really nice because the thing with the duck, unlike a chicken breast, we just have like a 1 pound piece of duck with the fat, but the fat really acts as a nice like insulator. So the duck doesn't take on too much smoke. But so we'll smoke it, and I'll probably take it up to a temp around like internal temp of like 115, 120. And then I'll put it right over skin side down on direct heat to get it to get the skin like a really nice crispy finish. And then when you cut into it, you're kind of your mouth is met with like these really nice variants in texture. So you have the medium rare meat, and then you've got this kind of crispy, delicious, fatty skin as well. So that's my favorite way to do it.
And it's a whole mouthful. You stick the fat, the crispy skin, and the meat all in your mouth. You don't trim the fat off or anything?
No. You definitely don't. You definitely don't want to trim the fat off. I mean, for some people, like some duck aficionados out there, I think they would think that would be like sacrilegious just because that fat is like liquid gold to use. And then you could have like a dipping sauce or something like that. And then for the folks who've never tried it before, a lot of times, they'll experiment. And we like to say that anything that generally pairs well with like a nice cut of red meat, like it works well with the duck too. So
could you take the layer of fat off even before you cook it and just like render the fat out to keep? Is that a weird thing to say?
No, it's not a weird thing to say at all. So we actually, some people have like their own health. They're trying to limit their calories or something like that. Like you could potentially, I've never done this, but you could cut the fat off to avoid that. And then when you're cooking it in the pan, not so much on the grill, but in the pan, the fat's going to render out, and you're going to want to remove the fat from the pan, and you'll want to save that because, if you're making really whatever, if you're just making rice or Brussels sprouts or potatoes, you're going to cook it in that fat, and it'll give it this nice, really crispy, golden, rich finish.
Do you find that you guys have had to overcome, I guess, what would be, for lack of a better term, a duck sucks mentality? In other words, people are just singularly focused on the hunted duck versus what you're offering, and you have to kind of constantly re-educate or newly educate these potential customers.
Oh, yeah, totally, all the time. And it's like a welcome conversation on our part. I mean, people say that they've tried a certain duck. Like one of my good friends, his wife, hated duck. She didn't want to. We made Duckchar tacos once, and she had duck at this restaurant before, and the customer's always right, but sometimes they're sort of wrong. But you try to just like steer them back onto the path that you're on, just to let them know that there is a large and like substantial difference between pekin and moulard and mallard. And it's really just like education. And really the best way that it works is that, you ask them if they've ever had something before, and they said they have. And then we have, you show them just a picture of what a slice of moulard duck looks like. And then they'll kind of look like a little less sure of their previous answer.
Josh Reznick joining me here on the show. Duckchar.com is the website. Josh, you want to do a lightning round before I let you go tonight?
Sure.
All right, let's do it. I'm going to ask you a variety of this or that questions. Just the first thing off the top of your head. Nothing is right or wrong. Mostly.
Okay.
All right, yes or no, searing seals in the juices?
No.
Okay, good. Reverse sear or normal sear?
Reverse sear.
Sweet or savory?
Savory.
Brisket or beef ribs?
Ooh. Beef ribs.
Fat side up or fat side down?
Fat side up.
Foil or butcher paper?
Butcher paper.
Podcasts or radio?
Podcast.
Finally, open pit or sweet baby race?
Open pit.
You were doing so good, Josh.
How'd that go? I have no
really?
idea.
Wow. Unbelievable. I can't tell you how many people say open pit, and I think that is like the most vile. I think it stains your teeth and skin orange if you actually get it on you. I don't know. In the meantime, if you have duck questions or you are interested in getting your hands on some moulard duck, not mallard, moulard duck, you go to duckchar.com, just like it sounds, Duckchar, duckchar.com. Josh, really appreciate the conversation tonight, educating us on the duck, and I'm excited to put in my order and have a go at it.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us on. Great talking to you, and love talking Duckchar, so it's definitely a pleasure.
All right, thanks again. There he is.
All right, thanks.
Josh Reznick.
All
Talking
guests appear
Duckchar.
via the Traeger Grills hotline.
Duckchar.